Hi, my name is Jerome Childers. I'm 36 years old. I live in Akron, Ohio. I am Puffy's former artist. Um, I was signed to Bad Boy Entertainment in the 1990s. Um,
And we're back with another P. Diddy rabbit hole to explore. I know some of you are probably getting sick of the Diddy videos, but there's a reason I'm seriously focused on this case. It's very revealing of the dark side of the industry that I've been alluding to for what feels like centuries with my long form content. We're now having this great awakening as a society, and more people can see the hidden agendas disguised as high fashion and or entertainment. We all have a better idea of what's actually going on in the back rooms of film and music studios and sub-basements of mansions. We also know now that mental unwellness, nervous breakdowns, and addictions are generally a direct result of complex trauma, especially from childhood. So are you ready to look closer, dive deeper, and change the way you see and perceive the world? I know some of you are already on the same page, so shout out to the folks that have been right here with it the entire time. But now it's time to awaken the masses. Even with the undeniable evidence being confirmed by attorneys and prosecutors, a lot of people still don't see what was actually going on here. And if you consider that only a fraction of the victims had the courage to pursue a case, and how many likely didn't even live to tell the tale, those are atrocious numbers. Over 10,000 people came forward as victims and or witnesses. There are over 120 cases nearly ready to be filed currently for both men and women, and a pretty substantial portion that were not adults at the time that they were allegedly victimized. In this video, we're going to be talking about the hit single artist Jerome Childers, aka Lil Jerome, and why his dazzling Diddy-fueled career abruptly ended. He became an instant hit with Too Old For Me. It was included on the very first Bad Boy Records' Greatest Hits album. He then had a nervous breakdown and left the industry. The official narrative, and what Jerome himself asserts, is still somewhat questionable with everything we know now, especially with what the word on the street was about what had happened, and it paints a darker and more sinister picture. So let's make like Mario and dive into the plumbing of this rabbit hole.
See, when I was your age, how old are you now?
11.
Yeah, when I was 11, I used to have a crush on this girl. I was 16. And I never got up enough nerve to say nothing to her. So she never even knew I liked her. And to this day, I still think about her. So I don't think you should pass up the opportunity. I think you should holler. I don't know how you feel.
Huh?
All right, Clay, let me do your thing. I'll be right here.
Although he was 11 when this music video was made, he was originally signed to Bad Boy Records at 9 years old. He says that things were pretty slow for the first couple of years, and that things started picking up when he was around 12 to 13, when the single and music video were released and gaining popularity.
Y'all see who we got here.
Yes.
Y'all see,
Jerome.
y'all
Yes.
see who? Man, we got the man himself, man. We got Jerome Childers, Lil J. Lil Jerome is in the house. Watch your mouth.
on the room now. Yeah. Hi, my name is Jerome Childers. I'm 36 years old. I live in Akron, Ohio. I am Puffy's former artist. I was signed to Bad Boy Entertainment in the 1990s. Um, you probably remember the music video "Too Old for Me" back in 1998. You might also remember the song "I Never Dreamed You'd Even Summer" that was released on the Belly soundtrack, and that also was released in 1998. I speak Spanish and French fluently. I also dip and dab in Chinese, Korean, Arabic, a little German and Italian. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I aspire to be signed to a national music label someday.
Now let's take a moment to hear some of the lyrics of this song. I've isolated the vocals so you can hear them more clearly.
When I first laid eyes on you, I instantly wanted to become a man. Each and every day I sit in class and dream about holding your hand. So I told all my boys all the thoughts in my head, 'cause I knew they would understand. But when they laid their eyes on you, they laughed and they said you're too old for me. Yeah, I really don't agree, 'cause you're the perfect one for me. That's all I can see. But they said you're too old for me. Yeah, I really don't agree. Really don't agree. Perfect one for me. Yeah.
The lyrics obviously speak for themselves, and you can almost say that it was an anthem for the era, with how much media was pushed out that rapidly adultified and hypersexualized the young teens, which seemed to only increase in frequency and intensity going into the 2000s onward.
I need y'all to close your eyes for this one, you feel me? Because today's guest, he was one of my childhood favorites, you know. He was a part of that bad boy era, you know, when Puffy had everything on lock. You know, he had the whole East Coast on lockdown. He had Mace, he had 112, he had Faith, he had Total, he had the Locks, he had the Mad Rapper. Puffy had everybody at that time. You feel me? And this artist was one of the artists that he had. And it was a little boy. And he was 11 years old at the time. And he sung this song. And I don't know if y'all remember that Martin episode when he was trying to get with Miss Trinidad, while Miss Trinidad was trying to get with him, you know, his old school teacher. I had one of those episodes in my life. So I remember when this song came out, it was like song number 4 or 5 on the CD. It was the Bad Boys Greatest Hits CD or tape. And I remember rewinding that tape back and forth, just so I could write down every lyric.
So I didn't really write the song, so it's not like a personal reflection of myself or anything. But it was a good song. It came out and a lot of people liked it. A lot of people really liked it. It was received well by a lot of people.
Okay, so you were young when you got signed to Bad Boy. How old were you?
Well, when I first got signed to him, I actually was 9. A lot of people don't know that. I was about 9 years old, 9 or 10, and everything was going pretty slow for a while. We didn't do too much at the beginning. We would go up to New York every now and then and try to do songs, and every now and then we did some songs, but it didn't really pick up until I got about 12 or 13. So I signed at 9, and I released my first single, Too Old for Me, at 12.
Wow,
so
12. And that's when y'all shot the video and everything?
Yeah.
Now that song blew up. That song blew up. I remember this was back in cassette tape days, y'all. I think CDs was just starting. It's like 97, 98, but it's really the cassette tape. It's when you used to get the cheap version. It was like $2 or $3.
Yeah.
And you had just that single and a bunch of other instrumental and the just the hook version or whatever they're called. And I remember that, man.
Now let's rewind to when Jerome took a shine to singing and how he later came into contact with Diddy.
Well, just to start off on how I got discovered, it started at the beginning. It actually started when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I was sleeping in my mom and dad's room because you know how that is. You know, you think those monsters are there, and they're not really there. So I was sleeping in my mom and dad's room, in between my mom and dad, and I was listening to my dad's Olita Adams album. I don't know if you remember her, but she's real sweet.
I remember her.
Yes.
And he was amazed because he used to listen to her album back and forth from work all the time, and he didn't remember all the lyrics. And I just listened to it a couple of times, and I knew every word to every song in the album. And that's when he was really impressed. He was like, something ain't right about that. And he was like, he thought it was kind of weird. So, and then the other shocker was when I went to daycare and I started singing, and people really liked my voice, and they put me in a Christmas show. And that's when I sung Silent Night. And I got a standing ovation. And I was only like 8 years old at the time. So that's
wow.
I might have something that people liked. And so my dad gave me a Nat King Cole album. And that's when I took the album. I was like, I ain't gonna like this, but I listened to it overnight. And I was like, Dad, I like these songs, So he started making videos of me singing Nat King Cole. And in the meantime, my sister, she had a group too, so she sung. And I wanted to be like them, so they went up to New York to shop them as a group. and I just tagged along. And after that, every time after they would sing, I would say, can I sing for you? And then people would be like, okay, go ahead and sing, Shorty. And then once I start singing, they'd be like, whoa, stop. And then they just stop everything. And I would sing. So eventually, I caught the ear of Brown Woods and Black Tree, which is
wow.
Ed Woods and Sean Brown. Unfortunately, they passed away recently. Ed would Ed Woods would eventually shop me to an A&R consultant named Ron Grant, and he's at Sony. So he also had like a sound stage. So eventually he heard me sing a video that my dad made in Nat King Cole, and he put me in a showcase. So when I sung the showcase, and my sister, they sung in the showcase too, Puffy's people saw the showcase, and that's when he called my house. So
Wow.
Puffy called the house and said he wanted to fly me up to New York. So, but long story short, I went up to New York and went to a little bad boy picnic. And after that, we thought we were just going to go home. There's nothing really happened. But the day before we went home, at night, he called us to Daddy's house recording studio. And I sung about 4 songs. I think I sung Stay Gold by Stevie Wonder. I sung Before You Walk Out My Life by Monica. I sung Joyful, which is a gospel song, and The Storms of Life Will Flow. I think it's Yolanda Adams cover. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So I sung that song, and he said he wanted to sign me right on the spot. And that's all.
That's amazing.
But I think tied to what she said, was I ever nervous? I was never nervous, and actually, I think it's kind of weird. It's almost like I wanted to get on stage. I never really wanted. I never really was nervous. But I think what it was, I was an introvert. Like when I was really young, I really didn't talk. I didn't socialize that much. So, when I got on the stage, I was within myself. I wasn't even thinking about the audience. I would just get on there and sing. The audience was just there.
Right.
So, you being a part of that era, how does it feel? Do you feel like you're a part of history? Personally?
Not really. I mean, because, the album never really came out or anything. So, I had that one single, and every now and then I get people on Facebook that say, oh, I remember that song. But, when you think about it, when you're yourself, you don't really think of yourself as being famous. And, I never got to the point where I was like a Justin Bieber or anything like that. So I never really thought of myself as being really, really famous. But when this documentary came out, I received a lot of love, and there's a lot of people that said that they remember it. I never really thought of myself as being like part of history, but I would like to be.
So getting back into the music industry, so you started when you signed with Bad Boy. How old were you?
I was 9.
Wow. So how did that go? Take us through the signing, man. Like what? Were you in? Obviously, you weren't in. That just blows my mind. 9. Like, what did you know about the industry at that point? Or was it like, hey, I'm here and I can sing and they're gonna pay me?
Yeah, I didn't know anything. I actually, a funny story is that Puppy said he asked me, he's like, "Do you know who I am?" I was like, "Yeah, aren't you Biggie's dancer?" So, I didn't know who he was, so I thought I knew who he was, and they kind of laughed in the studio. It's like, no, I'm more of a. He said I'm a CEO, and I think I said CEO. What's a CEO? So he kind of explained the whole thing. He's kind of the leader of a company.
Wow.
My dad started to explain to me the business, and so, but it was weird because a lot of the great stuff of the business I experienced, it was really amazing. And I think the good thing about being young in the business is that the business can be very cutthroat. It can be very cutthroat, and when you're a child, they tread lightly. So when I would go to the studio, you could smell the aerosol over the weed that they would have.
Yeah.
So you can smell. My dad could. I didn't know what weed was. I was 9 years old. So he's like, yeah. He's like, they must have just sprayed in there because they knew I was coming. So,
Yeah.
So I was like the cleanup guy. So stuff like that, I was shielded from that bad part of the business. But what I will say that the bad part of being young that I experienced is afterwards, because when you grow up in the business and you have such a amazing experience and you don't know that it is amazing because you're so young and you don't know any better, that's the bad part. Because then when life starts to show you, okay, life isn't going to be like that. What you experienced was a once in a lifetime thing. You have to make the mind has to make that adjustment and say, okay, what is going on here? Because, this was my life. This was all I knew. This was my beginning. And
Right.
now it's not. So that's the bad part about being in the business at a young age. You don't know how great you got it. So, but you really need somebody. But even if even my dad was telling me how great I had it, but it doesn't matter because I didn't know any other experience.
Right.
It was my first experiences. I was 8, 9 years old. So,
Right.
that's the bad part about it. But being in the business as a child, if you have the right people behind you, they tend to tread lightly. So I had the better part of the business. If I were to go back in now, they're not going to shield me from the weed. They're not going to shield me from the cocaine that the producers and the singers do. But
Right.
the thing is that for a long time I was saying to myself, I don't want to get back in the business because it's cutthroat, it's very superficial. People are in your business and stuff, but
He definitely gives some good insight about coming into wealth and fame as a child, how it shapes your perspective, and not really having any frame of reference to fully understand the gravity of the experience and the impact it has on you. Now here's when things begin to get a little bit dicey. He describes an issue he had with his vocal cords. Apparently it ended up that he had some kind of acid reflux disorder. Usher had also claimed to have issues when his voice began to change, and this was part of why he was sent to Puffy's Flavor Camp at 13. If you listen closely, however, Jerome also talks about his mental health, and he mentions that he was growing up and realizing things weren't the way he thought they were, in contrast with the amazing experience he'd had so far. It was an amalgamation of these events that led to him being released from the label at 13.
But what happened is I ended up getting some vocal issues, and I think it was reflux. I think nobody really knew for sure what was going on because I went to a doctor and he kind of like examined. He put stuff down in my nose. He gave me all kinds of medication. He said it was allergies, and he didn't know. And then later on, actually, it wasn't until I got released from Bad Boy that I found out that it was reflux. So nobody knew what it was. I didn't know. My dad didn't know. The company didn't know. And the album just never came out. And eventually I did have a nervous breakdown because and I don't necessarily think it was Puffy or anybody. I think it was just bad timing. Because when I first started off doing the show, doing the getting signed to Bad Boy and doing my songs, it was going real slow. Every now and then I go up to New York and I do a song. And it was going real slow, and it was actually good for me because, every now and then I'll go to school on the weekend. Every now and then I'll go up to New York and do a song or two. But when my voice started messing up and I started having issues and I was getting depressed and everything, all of a sudden the business just picked up and everything was going fast. And I just couldn't take the pressure, I eventually had kind of a breakdown, and eventually Puffy decided to release me from the label. So.
What happened after that point? So you dropped the video. Kind of take us through the next few years, kind of that mid phase. Since you came out, he was like, "Man, it's about to be. We're about to do this." Kind of walk us through what happened after that whole video.
What happened really was just my voice. What happened with my voice? Because it wasn't a normal voice change, because it didn't seem like it was just cracking and then your voice get lower. I literally couldn't talk. I literally couldn't sing at all. I was singing, nothing would come out. I think Mario Winans, he wrote a song for me called Father Will You Help Me? It's Father Will You Help Me? And when I was singing it was really like, "How will you help me?" That's how bad it got. So we were trying to, and people were scuffling around trying to figure out what was going on with my boys. They didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. My dad didn't. The company didn't. As things were really picking up at that time. And it was crazy because, when I was 9, 10, 11, and even 12, things were just going really, really, really slow. And then all of a sudden, when things started to pick up, all of a sudden my voice kicked out. So it actually kicked out just a little bit before everything started picking up and going fast pace. And so eventually, I think, I started going. We started traveling and doing all kinds of photo shoots, and things weren't just right. My mind wasn't right. Like I said, you go through that mental process where you start growing up and you start realizing that things aren't the way you thought they were because of being in the business for so long and having all those amazing experiences. And a girl broke up with me, and all these things would start happening at one time. I was going through puberty, and you go through puberty, and your mind gets all out of whack, and all of that stuff was happening at one time, and I had that mental breakdown. I was just excessive crying, and I was unresponsive. So that's when they eventually released me, unfortunately. So, and I got released from Bad Boy. I came back to Akron, Ohio. I just tried to piece my life back together, and I started thinking to myself, what happened? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? So,
how old were you at that point?
I got released at 13.
Okay.
The video came out at about 12 years old, and I got released at 13 years old.
He mentions that it was possible Diddy thought he was a liability, and that if the pressure he was putting Jerome under caused him to have a mental breakdown, it was possible his family might sue Diddy.
Were you finished recording the album?
Yes, I was. The album was about to come out. It was. It was about to come out. I had like 12 or 13 songs.
And he just decided to drop you at that time because of your breakdown and the things that you was going through with the voice issues. So did anybody, I know you say he tried to work with you as far as the voice issues and see what was wrong, doctors of sort, I'm sure, with that. With the breakdown part of it, did anybody care from the label? I mean, did Puff ever come to you and say, hey, little guy, this is how I imagine it. How I imagine it is like I seen it in a video with him talking to you in a Bentley, and he looked over to you and said, "Yo, Jerome, gonna be okay." Like, did he ever give you that big brotherly advice or try to help you with the breakdown part of it and how to handle? I mean, you're 14. Did he try to help you?
Well, to be honest, he didn't really reach out to me, but to me, I think what happened is that he was scared. Because if you think about it, if you're a grown man and you're putting all this music and attention and money into this little boy, and he has a nervous breakdown, the first thing you're gonna say is, well, maybe I'm putting too much pressure on him, so maybe I should take a breather and let him get himself together. And maybe he's just not prepared. So I think that's why he didn't reach out to me, because he was scared. Well, what if he sues me? What if I'm putting too much pressure on him? So he stopped putting the pressure on me and decided to release me from the label. He didn't reach out to me, and I would like for him to give me a call every now and then. But I think he was just scared because he put pressure on this little kid, and he had a nervous breakdown. What if I had another nervous breakdown? What if the next time I tried to kill myself? So you gotta see it from that perspective. I think it was just he was a little scared. That's all. So I have nothing against Puffy. I wish him all the best.
As the interviewer probes deeper about the kind of pressure he was being put under, you can almost feel the energy change. As he mentions, he doesn't have anything against Diddy and quickly redirects, saying he put the pressure on himself.
With you being signed to that label at that time and going through the things that you went through with the nervous breakdown and the pressure, talk to the kids for a second. What was that pressure on you? Try to make us feel like, what was it? Can you call it now that you're older and you're able to look back? Did you over exaggerate it, or was it really just a lot for you and you preferred to say? Because we've seen child stars walk away. We've seen child stars walk away from the top. I mean, he had Tevin Campbell disappeared at the height of his career, came back as an adult or whatever, but it just was never the same. But we've seen that. What was those pressures? How was you feeling?
I think I think the pressure wasn't necessarily the business. I think the pressure was me, because again, I said it was like, when the business didn't pick up until I started having issues with my voice. So the business itself was good. I wanted to sing. I wanted to do those things. So it wasn't necessarily the business that cracked me at that time. It was the fact that there was so much going on and the business was happening at the same time. So it was just bad timing. So I wouldn't say that the business cracked me. I think it was just me and the things that I was going through and the issues I was facing at the time. I didn't have time to step back and say, okay, I need to take a break and regroup myself. And I think it just got to me, and that's why I had that breakdown.
He then explains how he spiraled into a deep depression, had to see a psychiatrist and take medication long after he was dropped from the label, but that his parents helped him through it. He also mentions that there was some tension and anxiety that prevented him from singing long after his vocal issues had subsided.
Good. So going back to the mental aspect of it. So you said you had a mental emotional breakdown. How did you get through that, and who helped you make your way through that?
Oh yeah, definitely my mother and father. My mother and father, because people don't realize, even though they look at that documentary, I think the Evil Side of Bad Boy Records, when they look at that documentary, they just see that I had a breakdown, but they don't know that afterwards, it kind of continued. The breakdown, it spiraled into kind of a depression and even bad thoughts and stuff like that. And I didn't know what was going on until I had to backtrack, why I was thinking so bad and why I was feeling so bad about life. And so I even had to go to a psychiatrist, and one time I got on medication and all this other stuff. So, but my mother and father helped me through it. They really did. So
Nice.
My mother, she did all the phone calls to get me on the right insurance and all the documentation, following up and stuff, making sure I had all my appointments. My dad was always my emotional backbone.
Right.
He really is my best friend. So he would always coach me through when I would have my little bouts of depression. He coached me out of it. He didn't leave me alone. And even when I wanted to, he didn't leave me alone. And mind you, too, the voice thing didn't really stop after that, because even though the reflux kind of went away or kind of subsided, a lot of people were saying, okay, your voice is great. Why are you saying that you don't like your voice? Because there's a lot of tension in my voice. When I was young, I would just sing and it would come out. But after that whole reflux thing, there was a lot of tension in my voice, and it took a long time for me to get rid of it. So it was just a lot of mental back and forth with that. So it took a long time for me to really push hard on being serious about getting a job. And my mother and father just allowed me to stay with them until I did. I'm still saying them right now, but now that I'm better and really backtrack my experiences and doing fine, and really I'm not on any medication or anything. Lost a lot of weight. Because what people don't know is that when you get on those medications, it loads you up really bad. I took one medication and it blew me up like 100 pounds, and
Wow.
it really did. Like 80 pounds in 2 months, and over time it got real bad. Got diabetes and everything. So what happened is that I ended up getting off the medication eventually. I got on this good diet, and I just took it's almost like vitamins in natural food form. Making sure that you get all the vitamins that you need in natural food form, and not just take those daily. And I was like, pushing in the 230, 40. And so I'm down, and I'm now down to like about 190, 192, 193.
That's
So
awesome.
I lost a lot of weight, and then, mind you, the diet was just so good that I was on. I think I was like 6.4 average on diabetes, and I went back 3 months later. It went down to 5.4.
Come on, man.
Wow.
I literally lost 10 points in my average in
Come
3
on.
months. So, and that's the normal diabetic range. So you can actually say that I'm not diabetic anymore.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He says he didn't really know why he didn't want to do it anymore, and again mentions the weird thoughts he was having, which has me wondering if he was actually having flashbacks. The body keeps the score, and it took him a long time before he wanted to return to music.
Wow, man. So at 13, I mean, you live more at the age of 9 than anyone could ever live their whole life, you know?
Yeah.
In most cases.
You know, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know what was happening to me. But, you know, in hindsight, I realized that I lived a life of literally about, 30, 40, 50 people. Because a lot of it's people even in the music business now that didn't do the things that I did. Because Rodney Jerkins was going to be on I worked with Rodney Jerkins. He did 2 songs for me. Teddy Riley did a song for me. D did a song for me. Tony Dofat. Kelly Price was a writer at the time and wrote 2 songs for me. 112 wrote a song for me. Also, Janet Jackson was coming to the rehearsals for Dear Yvette, which was going to release before I had my mental breakdown. Mariah Carey, I met her 2 or 3 times, and she listened to my album. Jennifer Lopez, when Puffy was dating her, I met her in the studio. She listened to my songs and really liked them. And I kept staring at her, and she kept looking back, and I would turn my head like, that type of stuff don't happen to most people, even in the business. So when I realized in hindsight, what was happening to me, it really was not a once in a lifetime, once in 50 people's lifetime opportunity.
Right.
To not know that is such an amazing experience, and to think that that's going to happen for you for the rest of your life is a really bad mental space to be in. So I had to really succumb to myself and say, what's going on in my life, and why am I having this depression? Why am I having these weird thoughts, and and why is everything going bad when it was going so good? So I had to step away from the business and just say, I really don't want to do it no more. And I didn't even know why I didn't want to do it. I just knew that something wasn't right. Something in my gut that told me that there was something wrong with my way of thinking. So that's why I did away with the business for a very long time until I realized that it was my passion and it was something that I should be doing.
He also reflects on the impact it had on his social life fondly, in spite of some of his closest friends turning on him.
You got off the label at about 13 years old. I'm assuming you went and finished school and everything. Were you in public school? Were you recognizable when you got done with the label? Were you still in public school, or were you going to like a private school?
Yeah, that was the other thing. It wasn't even just in the business that everything was crazy. I didn't even have to make friends. People came to me because they knew who I was. Wow. So in the school, it was really amazing because people knew who I was, and everybody was always talking to me. I always had friends. I always had backup when people was always, standing up for me. I always had, one girlfriend here, and then when that didn't work out, and then 2-3 weeks later, I had another girlfriend, and it was just amazing how everything just started to fall into my hands. And
yeah,
I didn't have to make friends. I didn't have to do with that, that problem that most kids have, where they're trying to figure out what group to hang out in or what friend to hang out in. I had friends from all kinds of different groups. Right. They didn't have the problem of trying to deal with bullies, or I didn't have the problem of dealing with bullies, because most people really liked me and looked up to me because of what was going on in my life. I did have some friends that did some bad things to me. Very close friends. But at the same time, most of my school experience, my school experience was really good. Really good.
Now here's the word on the street about what happened.
I know one kid, his name is Jerome, Lil Jerome Childers. He's a gospel dude. And he had a real crazy voice. He was a kid, like 11 years old, 10 or something like that. And then they took one of his songs that he knew how to sing real good in church, and they changed it to a song about him kissing a girl for the first time.
I'm not too young for you, really don't agree with me.
He didn't really feel it. He didn't really feel that. He too young to understand what it's like kissing a girl and y'all telling them to say it like this. And they drove that little kid crazy. And that little kid did the Martin Lawrence, took the clothes off and ran out into the street and all of this, which they say artists do. When they
What?
go through that one thing. Yeah, man, that's how artists go crazy. The first thing they do is take their clothes off and run out into the street.
I heard about the whole Martin thing and the whole industry thing kind of made him go crazy.
He ain't the first one that did that. A lot of them do it. And then he went out to the street speaking in tongues. So you'd be like, not only is he out in the street naked, he's speaking in tongues.
What?
I mean, something else got a hold of this man, man. It's like you kind of like, it's almost like making you sing a song about kissing a girl. You never kissed a girl before. You'd be like, how can I really sing this song and really love it?
Right.
Artists, we can't do it just to be famous. Some people do it to be famous. Some people do it to be heard.
Yeah, I think most people these days do it to be famous. But that kind of leads me to another question that I wanted to ask. And I think a lot of people kind of want to know this because it's always something coming out about Diddy and one of his, like, a deal that he did with one of his artists in the past. And it seemed like every artist, at least every major artist that was under him, got a gripe with him. Like, he wronged them in some kind of way.
He ran out of the studio naked and was speaking in tongues? This Mark Curry guy attributes it to the skewed adultification and industry pressure. But I think most of you already know what I'm about to say. Sounds more likely to me that he was under the influence and escaping a situation. And again, those weird thoughts could potentially be flashbacks of moments of clarity between blacking out.
A lot of people out here taking from people. Not only like people are getting robbed of not only their money and their spirituality. They're getting robbed of their womanhood and manhood. Asses are being taken in ways that nobody can explain. Do you chuckle? Do you laugh? Do you help? Do you criticize? Because I see a lot of jokes out there right now talking about baby oil. Everybody got a joke about having baby oil and lube. Is that okay? Is that the message? Ha 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 ha. That was funny, fam. Now what?
So I took it upon myself to step to you and see if I had a chance. When you looked in my eyes, I could see that you and me had the same plan. So we talked for a while and walked through the crowd, finally holding hands. But when I told you all I was, you could write and they said you do for me. Ooh, that you're the perfect one for me. Yeah. Oh yeah. You said you do all for me.
So Diddy dropped him from the label, shelved the completed album, and then never spoke to Jerome again.
Oh yeah, they didn't release my album because I had that mental breakdown. And so I guess they decided that I probably decided I was more of a liability as a child having a mental breakdown. That's not good on the label, so that's why they released me.
Right. Looking at it now as a business owner from Diddy's side, I can see how he would think that. Not saying that's what he thought, but I can totally see why you said that. It just makes sense to me.
You were dropped from the label. Puffy shelved the album. I'm guessing that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell did Puffy go with the album? Did you get it? Do anybody have a copy?
Well, those type of things, what they do is they just like you said, they shelve them. They take those songs and they're somewhere in a studio somewhere, on some sort of magnetic tape somewhere. Nobody knows where they are. I don't know where those songs are. If
y'all don't get a copy or nothing.
Oh, we got copies. We got copies of those songs because a lot of times when we would do the song, we would get a copy of like the cassette and we would take it home. And so we have tapes and tapes of songs that we did when we were up there in New York. So we have copies of them, but the actual songs themselves, because I didn't write them or produce them, I really don't know where they are right now. I really don't.
I got you. How's those contracts look, Jerome? Do Bad Boy at least treat the artist correctly on the contract wise, or it's really nothing? You're not eating off of that anymore, are you?
Nah, you know, a lot of the money that you get is when your album comes out and it sells. And what happens is you pay back the company first.
You recoup.
Pay back the producers, the writers, and everything that you do. You have to pay that back first before you get your money. So since my album never came out and it never sold, I never really got any money from that. So yeah, as far as royalties and all that is concerned, I never got any of that, unfortunately.
I got you. So you have any industry friends that you could still reach out to? We were speaking about that as far as the people that you all the big people that you've worked with. Do you still have friends inside the industry? Or I mean, you was a kid, so was they ever considered friends? Or was they all on some Hollywood?
Faith Evans was somebody that I reached out to, and she really responded very well. I actually have her number on my phone, and we talk every now and then. She's really good people. She talks to me every time when she gets a chance, she responds. She's very nice. A lot of people don't know how nice she is. She's a very nice person. So I reached out to her. I think Stevie J, he was there with her, and he called me on his phone. He sent me a track, and I wrote a song and sent it to him, and they responded very well. I sent them my cover album. They really liked it. But when COVID came out, I think the music business slowed down very much so. So they weren't doing anything, so I wasn't doing anything, and I think that's where that whole transaction kind of slowed down. But we still talk. I still have her number on my phone. I just talked to her when the video came out. You know, I let her know that when they were saying, you know, Faith didn't reach out to him, and you know, I let her know, you know, I didn't say that because she did reach out to me, and she's always been a nice person. So.
I'm the perfect one for you, you're the perfect one for me. Yeah. I really don't agree. You're the perfect one for me. And that's all I can see. But they said that you were for me. I really don't. Woo! But you're the perfect one for me. Perfect one for me. I'm not too young for you. You're not too old for me. I'm the perfect one for you. You need to stay with me. I'm not too young for you. Really, you don't agree with me. Perfect one for me. Gotta be here with me. Yeah. I really don't agree. Really don't agree. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not too young for you. Not too old for me. Really don't agree. And not too old for me.
Yo, what's up, shorty? Why you out here singing to my girl? Yo, don't make me come down there. Should be in school anyway.
And yet he still asserts that Diddy was good to him. Is it possible that he too was handed $10K and sent on his way if Diddy wasn't getting what he really wanted out of the deal? Is that why it took so long for him to work through whatever happened to him while working with Diddy and his prolonged return to making music?
One of the main questions of anybody that's ever dealt with Bad Boy, you know, because we're talking, like I said, we had Mase, we had 112, we had Total, we had Faith, The Lox, Mad Rapper, G-Dep, rest in peace Biggie Smalls, Craig Mack, and most recently, rest in peace to the homie Black Rob. And there's so many horror stories out there about Puffy. In your opinion, was Puffy a good CEO?
I think he was good to me. He was, because he's really respectful to me. You know, he's always calling my dad Mr. Childers. he never disrespected me in any kind of way. I don't know what his relationship was with other people, but I know he was a good person to me. And he put a lot of money into me, he put a lot of time into me, a lot of attention into my project. So I think as a CEO, I'm not sure what his relationship was with other people, but to me, I think he's a pretty good, he did good business with me. So that's what I'll say.
Gotcha. So, signed to Bad Boy, you start having voice problems. You go through a nervous breakdown, and then you get dropped from Bad Boy.
Mhm.
What's the next step?
Well, the next step was just to get myself together, because eventually, the breakdown caused, depression and stuff, and you have to get yourself together and get your mind right. And so what I did is I just got my mind right. Eventually, I started going to school, making my own music. I started writing and doing producing, and what I really did was focus on school. I eventually got my degree in international business. I got my
Congratulations.
Thank you. I got my master's in marketing, and I learned some languages too. I speak French, German, Italian. I speak Spanish the most, and I know a little Chinese. So, but it was really just focusing on school. And once school's finished, I got more back into the business. And it wasn't until recently that I really started pushing and saying, I want to do this again. Because
Okay.
music is just in my soul and it's something that I want to do. Eventually, I was like, how am I going to survive in the business? But at the end of the day, you have to do what you love. So that's what I did. That's what I want to do.
That interview was named "The Evils of Bad Boys" or Bad Boys. The evil side of Bad Boy. You did an interview called "The Evil Side of Bad Boy," or a little documentation of that. Do you feel like it's really an evil side, or?
I don't think it's evil. I wouldn't say it's the evil side of Bad Boy. I would say that it's just an unfortunate incident. I got released from the label, and it's just a lesson learned. I wouldn't say it's the evil side of Bad Boy, and just to everybody out there, I wouldn't dog Puffy and say that he's just this bad person, because he was really nice to me. He wasn't just a terrible person to me. I don't know what his relationship was with other people, but he wasn't just a bad person. So the evil side of Bad Boy, I could do without that. But it was an unfortunate incident that I got released. But other than that, I have no personal issues with Puffy.
It's also possible that nothing in particular happened to him, and that it was just too much too fast, since childhood fame and attention on its own can have a lasting impact. He does say he'd work with Puffy again, but that he's more interested in writing songs and producing. However, he has released an album on Spotify. He mentions various socials in these interviews, but none exist anymore aside from Spotify. Not sure when he took them down between then and now, but definitely go give him some plays on Spotify. The link is in the description.
Jerome, do you think that being exposed to the industry so young took away from your childhood some?
Yeah, yes and no. I think what it did is gave me the foundation for me to build a life, a good, successful life for the future. I think that's what my mother and father was trying to do. They saw that I had the potential to make a future for myself. They were looking ahead. And it actually works, because now I have a chance that is better than anybody else to get back in the industry had I not done it.
Right.
And so it builds a future for me. But at the same time, it does take away from your childhood, like I said, because you don't know how good you got it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You need to grow up. And I think I would recommend not getting into the industry until about 18. So you can basically live and know what's the difference between a normal life and that fast-paced, amazing life that the industry can give you. So kind of yes and no, kind of both.
So coming full circle, you graduated from college, you worked your little jobs here and now. Like I said, 2 years ago, you said, forget it, I'm about to jump back in, dive in. Music bug has restruck you again, man. Like you're re-energized, you're rejuvenated. let us know what's going on with Jerome right now. What do you have in kind of in the works, and what do you have coming up in 2022?
All right, so I have an album called The Face of Love. I wrote, sung, and arranged all 10 songs except one. There's one song that I didn't write. It's called Overjoyed, a cover of Stevie Wonder that I did. The tracks were all produced by Soul for Real Productions. It's a website that it's not a website. It's a musicians that make tracks, and they do it in all kinds of different genres. But they have a website that you can buy it from, and you can get all the contracts and everything, and they lease it for you, allow you to copyright it or whatever. So I have that album coming out called The Phases of Love. And that's coming out in 2022. And along with that, I'm gonna release a single called "Be My Lady." It's a song that I wrote, sung, and arranged, and the producer is Justin Thompson. It's a really awesome track that he made, and I wrote the song to it. I'm going to release that single along with it on Spotify.
What was your direction with the music that you were coming with? Was it to get back? I mean, is Bad Boy a place that you would like to go? Have you reached out to Puff, or it's like, nah, I'm independent? Like, is Bad Boy the label that you would like to talk to? Have you reached to them?
I don't know if Bad Boy is not. I don't know if I want to go back to Bad Boy. I mean, I would like to work with Puffy again, maybe if he's interested. But I really just want to. What I was focusing on mostly was doing the background type of stuff, like writing and producing and making tracks and stuff like that. I would love to sing and get in there as a singer, but doing background stuff is kind of my goal, because that's where most of the income comes from. Actually, people don't know that. They see the artists out there and they perform and they think they're making all this money. No, it's actually from the writers and producers that you get most of the income. And once the artist is gone, 10 years later, if someone performs that song again and you're the writer or the producer, you get money again. Like Dolly Parton with "I Will Always Love You." She wrote that song and it came out 2 or 3 times. Yeah, and she did really good. And so she is the one that benefited the most from that song. A lot of people don't know that. So that's something that I would really love to get back into, producing, writing. I love to sing, but I want to write and produce mostly.
It sounds like he is dead set on restarting his music career, but I suppose the lockdowns and everything that happened the last few years stood in the way, and he got discouraged. Regardless of what happened that caused him to step away from what he loved to do, I really hope he can return and see some progress in the near future. He did play a live show last year at Studio 225, and it was posted to that venue's YouTube channel. So the link to that is also in the description.
But one thing that changed my mind is a while back, I went to an employment specialist to get a job. And, I was working at some Walgreens thing, and I was really nervous about it because everybody's coming up to you. Now, like I said, I'm not a social person, so I was kind of nervous about it. And then at the same time, if you do something wrong, you have these people with the attitude, and they will cuss you out and stuff. So it was kind of nerve wracking. So I just, when I got the employment specialist, I quit that job hoping to get a better job from her. So, but then she said to me, Jerome, it concerns me that you quit that job because no job is going to be stress free. And when she said that, it kind of rung in my head. I was like, well, if no job is going to be stress free, I should get a job doing what I love and making good money doing it. So that's why I decided to get back into the music industry and try my best to deal with the stressful part of it, because no job is going to be stress free. As long as I'm doing what I love, making a good living doing it, I got the best job I can have. So that's why I tried to get back into the business. I kind of started back in 2010 gradually, but I really started pushing hard the last 2 or 3 years.
Got you.
Oh, smoking out the window?
Yeah. You mind just hitting, get us a couple little razzle dazzle.
Oh yeah, girl, it breaks my heart that you ain't right here with me, but I gotta bring it back to the city. Oh, you got me. Ooh. Come on now.
That's nice.
Sexual chocolate.
Got those runs.
When the time comes for us to pray, we find other things to say. instead of giving thanks for what God has already done or asking for more. But with a grateful heart, we ought to pray, Lord, let your will be done. And if you never give me another thing, I just thank you for forgiving me.
Once a child with eyes of wonder, lost in dreams. Now a shadow fights with echoes, silent screams. Broken toys and whispered secrets in the night. Innocence a shattered crystal out of sight. Memories like faded photos, gray and torn. Haunted halls where ghosts of past are never gone. Playgrounds turn to battlegrounds of fights within. Parents' silence deep like oceans full of sin. Hands of time they can't rewind. Lost the light I'll never find. In the mirror see someone who's grown up but still a child undone. Whispers of the past in rhythm, heartbeats drum. Darkened corners of my mind I can't outrun. Fairy tales with twisted endings left behind. Heroes fell and villains conquered, peace declined. Walls that hear my every cry and still stay mute. Ivory keys of lies in this lifelong pursuit. Echoes in my head like symphonies forlorn. Listen close, the child I was forever gone. Hands of time we can't rewind. Lost the light